It has been a year since the COVID-19 pandemic began, and how does the pandemic relate to public perception of debt? We're joined by Shawn Stack of Bromwich+Smith to chat about this. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Corey.
A lot of focus has been put on money, relief payments, loss of jobs, things like that, as we've gone throughout the pandemic. And you guys, Bromwich+Smith, have been conducting polls during the pandemic. What did you guys discover?
Yeah, Corey, it's really interesting because what we do at Bromwich+Smith is, of course, we assist people in restructuring their debts. And although that is sort of a transactional experience, it can be very much a transformational experience. And that's really what this pandemic is happening within our community. So throughout the pandemic, we've been doing polls to ask people different questions to kind of gauge not just our clients, but sort of the whole community on how they're doing with everything.
And how did we do with everything?
Well, man, it's an interesting thing because the experience of the pandemic is very much like people's experience of debt. Like some people are doing okay with their debt issues here in Alberta, and other people are really struggling with it. And that's really kind of what's happened with the pandemic as well. Some people were actually able to save money, and they're coming out kind of rosy on the other side, and they're feeling kind of bad about it, to be frank, because it's hard to speak of. And then there's other people that are actually doing really terrible in relation to their circumstances with the pandemic and the impact on their debt. And they're in a really, really bad place. It's sort of like seeing if you go see a movie, one person experiences it one way, another person experiences another way, although it's a public experience that we share. So
has that meant an increase in business for you guys as debt relief providers, or is it balanced out then?
Well, you would think that it would, all things considered. But in fact, what's happened throughout the past 10 years is insolvencies, which is the restructuring that we assist people to do. They've been increasing year over year. But during the pandemic, they actually bottomed out. It was 30% decrease in insolvencies. And what that tells us is that the creditors were really looking at this from a perspective of saying, hey, we understand there's a bigger crisis going on. There was lots of relief coming in from the government. But all that stuff is kind of coming to an end, and the creditors are going to be coming soon, to say, hey, we need to get this figured out, and we need to get this collected.
That's right. They'll only put it off for so long. What are some of the
story.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen throughout the pandemic financially?
Well, it's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is people are starting to sort of reframe the way they look at their lives. So people are saying, hey, listen, I want to slow down more. I'm not so interested in the busy life. They're starting to frame around what's important: family, travel, the spending time that way, and really looking at sort of more of a future focus and being together again, as opposed to kind of the rat race, arguably.
And so if you weren't one of the ones who maybe has come out on the rosier side of things, what advice do you have for those who still struggle with debt?
Yeah, Corey, even if you're on the rosy side, I think the most important thing is either way, it's okay. Although our experiences are individual, we are a community, and we have laws within the community to assist us when we're in these bad places. So number one, don't beat yourself up. Well, if you're in a bad situation, understand that there's people in the community like Bromwich+Smith that are able to help you look at your budget, reassess where we can make some cuts, and then actually negotiate a settlement with your creditors through a thing called a consumer proposal that avoids the formal restructuring of a bankruptcy and allows you to kind of future focus and get to that better place in 2021.
So don't feel stuck. There's help available.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Shawn. For more financial advice, you can find a link to Bromwich+Smith at ctvedmonton.ca under Morning Live. We are back in a couple.
Debt Real Talk with Bromwich+Smith. Free confidential debt relief consultations.